would say the residents that actually live in the precinct are law-abiding. You get a little bit of trouble once in a while from them, but I couldn't say very seldom. You might get about 5% of them might give you trouble, and the other 95 don't give you much trouble because they know whether they're wrong or right.
And all the time I've been here, I've never really had any problems with the community itself. I don't consider this, you know, the riffraff and whatnot out here in the streets part of the community.
In their first sessions, the men were asked to speak out about the things that bothered them, to talk openly and easily with each other.
Nowadays, what would happen if you go down on 14th Street and holler at 1 o'clock and all that?
So we began to talk to the issues that have most importance to you, and feel free to talk.
People fail to understand that it's the times that we are living in now because of the decisions of the Supreme Court.
They generalized about the problems. Their world today is complicated by courts that don't support them, by young people who don't respect the law, by laws that are hard to understand and worse to enforce. And they're not sure where they stand in the midst of this confusion.
Just because he's got a joint where he's making about $500 a night selling booze and whatnot, we aren't allowed to go up and kick that door down because that's against his right.
But if they could identify and control their adversary, they could handle any problem, including community relations.
It's going to come and pass my gun control regulations and tell me when and when I can't take my weapon out. It's going to come down there and call the shooting of 2 policemen justifiable homicide? Oh, the man hadn't got any right to live, I don't believe, especially down the city council.
Now it's been changed that you no longer use it on a robbery snatch. This is a felony. He's a fleeing felon. You can no longer use it on a burglary too. You can no longer use it on an arson unless the place is occupied. You know, what's left in the city?
The council itself, they haven't come up with any statement at all as to what they're going to do with the hoodlums. Everything is about the police.
There are citizens out there that don't know, but they still try to tell us how we're supposed to do it. These people have a lot of guts, and they're not afraid of the policemen anymore like years ago when a policeman walked down the street and people had respect for him and they were afraid of him. Now, policeman goes down the street and tries to make an arrest, well, there's 15 people that are ready to jump on him.
It's not the citizens within this precinct that's bitching. It's these damn hoodlums down on 14th Street. No matter how much you train us and educate us, you aren't going to get them to change their mind about us. I don't care what you do. And no psychology or sociology or what have you is going to do a damn thing for it. So I think you better go work on them before you work on us.
I understand that efforts...
As they talked, they agreed on the need for community cooperation and support. But the problem remained, how to get that support.
Just get some militants, let's talk to them.
Say, if there's any way to do it, that's got to be the only way I can think of. Like I said, I related to you incidents that had taken place that could have just as easily been avoided if we'd had the full cooperation and assistance that we had, you know, we had in the past.
In the situation at 14th and Euclid, I would ask people along the side of the street, will you help me? Will you help me? And nobody would help. They were all sitting there, they were clapping and laughing and, you know, get him and all this. And then after I did draw my service revolver, I still kept asking, will you help me? Will you help me? And no, they sit there and clap and they'll laugh.
That's right, it was just like a bullfight. Everybody's going to wait and see what was going to happen.
And then finally I fell and it hit my arm and I shot her in the stomach then. But if they had helped when I asked them to, anyone, everything could have been avoided, because had someone helped, I would never have drawn the service revolver.
No.
We have, instead of 3 judges today, we have 3 instant social scientists, as Rome put it the other day. But we don't want to lose sight of the law, so we've asked the sergeant.
Statutory law in the inner city can be vague or ambiguous. To give the men solid footing in this area, specific laws and regulations were examined, using the technique of role-playing.
A residential street, Georgetown, good neighborhood, almost all residents in the area are white. A loud party is going on in the same block.
I ain't do nothing. All I'm doing is looking for a hotel. I'm lost.
Officers played the parts on both sides, in situations prepared by the training staff.
Oh, yeah?
Can I go, officer?
No, sir, I want to see some identification.
Identification for what? I don't have an identification.
The men were able to play the roles well. It was easy to identify and give the right feeling to the problems they face every day.
I haven't done anything.
They began to look at themselves objectively.
You're going to make me late on.
Now complexity is added. How do the men respond when additional problems are presented?
Have you done it, y'all? My name is Mr. Bird, and I happen to be the community leader of this block.
Here, an officer playing the part of a community leader joins the action.
I'm going to go see my girl.
All right. Change back in the other room, Mike.
Okay. Did you have your finger extended, your index finger?
Yeah, well, I had it. Yeah.
Well, to me, it took the shape, regardless of what he may think, of a revolver. It gave me that opinion to frisk him at that point.
As a fourth grade, I don't believe they had a basic legal right to stop the man and inquire, as it was portrayed here.
We have a difference of opinion between the two sergeants as to whether it was a legal stop.
These officers rushed right in and grabbed this man, see, for no apparent reason. And I can see other than he was looking at a building or to landscaping.
What's your advice about rushing up on people?
Don't do it.
The men can cope with a clearly defined adversary, but the community leader doesn't fit easily into that category.
That he was good that time. Because he did. I think he should have waited until the thing was calm and talked to the officers then about the situation. He was so involved in thinking about the community.
If he was coming out to assist me with an uncooperative suspect, and he could, I'd be grateful to him. So we get something accomplished instead of having a big disorder on the street.
Now, he viewed it as an attempt to assist the officer, and yet we're talking about the same action.
Is there anything wrong with letting a citizen come up and talk to this guy, even if you know he's not trying to take him away, he's not interfering, he wants to help you and say, well, maybe I can calm him down?
One guy comes in, another guy comes in, like the other officer says, then you got a crowd, and then you're in trouble.
You're assuming that the crowd's forming. Pearson.
Hey, Jim. Another Hummer. Hey, man, what's a Hummer? Man, there are all types of Hummers around. Man, a Hummer. Why don't you guys go out and some real man? The man's being charged. Yeah, money on Jim. Give me your money and I'll get you out downtown.
How do the men react when a crowd does form? Another version of staying cool under fire.
Hey, man, what you doing pushing on me?
Hey, yeah, what's going on?
What do you think you're doing, man?
You always picking somebody up off the street, man. All the time. Okay, we're down the station now. We've advised him on the scene that he's going to be arrested for CDW gun. And we're going into the station now.
Yes, was there a legal frisk? No, why not?
Because you didn't have grounds to believe the man was armed to start with.
Yes, you did. Yes, we did. The reason for us believing that he may possibly have a gun on him. We conversed. We knew he was picked up last week for CDW. We saw him try the doors a couple of times. I think that was grounds for the frisk.
Okay, here's a question. How do you feel toward these citizens now?
I responded the same way a normal person would to an unlawful arrest like that.
Let me ask police officers. Did you feel more resentment towards the subject or toward the citizen who intervened with you at the time? Which one?
The citizens that intervened.
You felt more. What would be your feelings towards your two officers?
It would be just a matter of judgment as to how well I knew the two officers. As to whether or not
past performances.
Well, I'd have to. There'd be nothing else left to go on.
What would be your feelings towards the citizens?
No adverse feelings. They had felt they had a legitimate gripe. You listen. If they want to make a statement, you take it.
It's not easy to give in, you know, to the citizen who's riding you at the time, and then all of a sudden you becomes probably more aggressive or what have you because the citizen behaves.
They could point out a mistake I made or call me all kinds of names, and I think I wouldn't overreact. No, I would have a feeling, you know, that I dislike this person, but I wouldn't overreact. No,
it's human nature.
It's human nature, but also we know that we can control our natures, right? Our purpose here today...
Now the training prepared the men to go into the community and talk with the citizens, to take the first step toward a positive image.
Know the police better, hopefully, and that the police will get to know the citizens better, hopefully, and that the goodwill that's generated by the visit will spread through the community. Now, I don't think there's anybody that can quarrel with that. That's exactly what you've been telling us for a year that you wanted. Community support.
Who are you reaching? Who are you getting through to? In this program, that's why we're getting through to the worthwhile people.
Or the worthwhile people.
What's
wrong with the worthwhile people?
That's it. That's the only ones we're getting through to. And we already...
Well, what's wrong?
But an old problem sticks in the front of their minds. Most of their experience with the community had been limited to the troublemakers. The others were not their concern.
How can we go in and make a good impression on these people so they will support us more? That's the issue. Now, why are you fighting it?
I'm not fighting it. I'm all for it if I think it'll work. Okay, good. If it'll work. But what I say is, nobody who you really got it, the people that you really got to get through to aren't here.
Well, you're not going to reach the people that are hardened police haters. You're going to have to hit the people that are on the fence, so to speak.
I would say the people that you get through to, these people here probably don't have to be impressed by the police as much as the criminal out in the street.
We didn't say impressed by the police, no.
Oh, well, that's what you said. You said impressed, make a good impression.
I didn't make a good impression, but I didn't say that we wanted to impress the people. That's a different thing.
One way to begin this dialogue with the community was with the youth of the inner city, the street dudes.
This is Lord. You're out in the street and you can't give a good account of yourself, and you're by yourself.
Making a good impression for some officers was just a chance to lecture. For others, a fatherly chat.
Now, if you're walking down the street and you're on your way home,
the topic chosen was loitering.
Have you ever had any cases like that, anti-loitering?
Yes, I would go up there and talk to them and let them go on and play, and then say, don't stay out here so late. As soon as you finish up, try to make it on in the house. We want to try to understand each other. And I think if we really try to understand each other and be fair with each other.
So what we want to do is have one observer from each group to tell the rest of the group what happened. Okay, Dale, do you perceive these officers as having been honest with you, or were they trying to run a game on you?
I feel that they were honest with me.
They were honest with you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say, to add to what was said?
No, I don't have it.
Okay. Next group?
In asking how he felt about us, why he felt like I was a jive nice old man.
Did he tell you that?
That's his words.
Okay.
Of course,
so how do you feel about Lee?
I feel that he's all right. I think that, like he asked me about my feelings, he thought I was kind of easy, but I told him I believe in being very positive and very fair. That if I found him wrong, why...
Hold it now. Did you believe him when he said it?
Like I said,
Yes or no?
I really couldn't tell you.
You can't say. Okay.
Now police trainees were brought together with members of a predominantly black inner city college. As students and teachers, they were both objective and outspoken.
Policemen do not act like they're human. They walk around. There's a way to have so much authority, and there's a way to perform your authoritative duties and this and that. But you don't have to walk around like, yeah, well, I'm a policeman.
As one student put it, the biggest chink in the policeman's armor is the armor itself.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I've seen where the mod squatters, they come in the neighborhood, and they jump out the cars, 15 black men, and the white one had a shotgun standing around looking like David Boone, anybody, He has a shotgun. Why? I mean, how do y'all feel, to...
Self-preservation, you might call it, but I don't want to go someplace and get blown away because I didn't have enough help or I didn't have enough equipment or something like that.
You go in the black community, do you feel that you are in danger right then, so you get prepared right then and there?
Hey, what do you want? Get out! What do you want? This is my house. You don't tell me to sit down. What are you doing here? What do you want? What have you been talking about?
Role-playing again, as officers prepared to meet the citizen in his own home. This time, the actors are members of the community, as well as policemen.
Don't go in
in the other room and get something to eat.
What have you been doing, my wife? What are you trying to find?
Closed-circuit television records the interview.
Have us explain it to you, or would you like us to leave? We feel you're the man of the house, so you play the ball.
Did you tell these officers? You tell them to come in?
They're just talking to me about this code of conduct business that they got.
Yeah, I want to hear what you got to say. I got some things to say to you, too.
I'm really sorry for this. I must apologize. I didn't tell my husband about it. I mean, you know. Well,
we've introduced ourselves, and we've got on a first name basis. This is it.
First name basis?
Right. Okay, well.
Okay, let's look at this playback and see what we can say.
I've been on that case. I don't see the harassment, that I see in my neighborhood. I know we have some bad people in the neighborhood, but some of the good citizens suffer with the bad.
The playbacks on television not only served as review, but were the easiest way for the men to accept their own shortcomings in meeting and communicating with the people of their district.
To stop this.
This is perfect. One very minor thing, I just want to bring it out so that you're aware of it. But you got to be very careful. If you're really trying to explain something to somebody, if he has two people talking at one time, he can't possibly hear you. He can't possibly hear you. And this is based on some principles of communication. You can't hear two people talking at the same time. Does it make sense? The more you practice it, the more comfortable you become.
Now, no, we sat and talked, Mr. Brown, well, come on, I've been through it with another guy, You got to be able to say...
When the men finally had their meeting with black activists, one need became clear: an honest understanding of the other man's point of view.
When you get out here, at least I do, I try to do it as a policeman the best I can.
I can get along with almost anyone.
Which man would you trust? Why?
Because I know how he feels.
And this should have meaning for you guys, because you're all in the same fraternity. You work together. You ride the same cars. And the one thing you must have between you, it don't have to be love, but trust. Because a black officer and a white officer working together, maybe you got to know where you come from when you run up against something, right?
Could I ask you a question about something?
You may have to get this thing together. So here are these concerns.
We have one set policy and enforce advice out here. That's the way they tell us. But we all know that we don't do it that way. We do it according to our own morals.
You mean your personal feelings in answer to it?
This personal feelings and stuff, I think the Negro officer, the black officer that is here in the community, lives here in the community, was bringing the feelings of the black people in this community into the discussion groups. And that's the points they're trying to get across. That's why the conversations got a little heated. Because they're talking their feelings as well as the people's feelings that they live around.
A lot of the guys just felt like they couldn't trust anybody. And so they began to feel a little bit of trust, and, they'd open up a little bit more and a little bit more. And I think in each session, some of them, from session to session would open up more. Well, see, there's one big issue. If we can't talk to the people, if we can't get them to understand us, we can't understand them, we can't police them.
You also need the people, too. You need somebody to talk to.
Right, you need them both. We don't like feeling, at least I don't like feeling like a hostile soldier, walking down the street. And if something like this project can remedy it or can help it, I think we should go ahead with it. And if it means involving people who some might say are radical or in the power structure of the project, I personally, as police, I say fine.
The public has to actually have that feeling of that they actually want you. The time that we make up our minds...
As the training neared its end, evaluation proved different results for each man. But for each man, a common goal: the support of the community. To reach that goal, to gain that trust, each man would learn to know himself, to know the law, and the community he is pledged to serve.
You don't take any action that isn't going to help the situation.
Officer Drew mentioned how we were looked upon years back. Of course, I'm wondering how we are looked upon now.